So let's take a look at how to find the slope when you have a graph. So here we have a lot of information. I'll try to break it down for you. Probably the most important thing on this screen is in the red box. If you're recording notes and writing things down, this would be what you want to write down for how do you find slope from a graph. Slope can be calculated by taking the rise of the line and dividing it by the run of the line. So let's talk about what does it mean by rise and run. So the rise is the difference in the y values of any 2 points on a line. That's also called the change in y, as in the change in the y values. Now we don't have any numbers over here to go off of, that'll come up later, but if we look at the rise between any 2 points, all we have to do is count the vertical change. So in other words, count straight up. So if we start at the point that's lower and we count how many spaces up, like little marks here, we'll go up 1, 2, 3 until I'm to the level of the other point. So the rise here is 3 units. If I look at the rise between my second dot and my third dot, again, I count straight up vertically, 1, 2, 3 spaces, and that gives me a rise of 3 until I'm at the same level as my dot. The run is the horizontal change, the difference in the x values, in other words. So this time, if I go up with my rise, from here I want to count what is the run, how many spaces do I have to go until I get over to that red dot. Since there's 2 spaces, 2 squares, so 1, 2, my run is 2. If slope is the rise over the run as a ratio or a fraction, we can write it as a rise of 3 over a run of 2. In other words, the fraction 3/2. So the slope is a measure of how steep the line is. The larger the number, the steeper the line. Let's take a look at another graph. This time we even have ordered pairs, but we're not going to use the ordered pairs. We're just going to count rise over run. Starting at the point that's lower, the rise is if we were to go straight up until we get to the level of the other point, and then the run is when we go straight across to get to that point. So rise, run. And we just have to count our spaces. Now the rise, if I start at my lower point, it looks like it's at a height of 4. When I go up, it now has a new height of 6. So it went up 1, 2 spaces. For the run, now we're looking at our horizontal distance or even our x values. It started at an x value of 4, because this point here is right above the 4. As I went across, this point ended at 8. So from 4 to 8 is a change of 1, 2, 3, 4 units. The rise is 2, the run is 4. So when we write this out using our slope formula, the slope of this line has a rise of 2 and a run of 4. Now we can actually simplify this because 2/4 is a fraction with a common divisor. We can divide both numbers by 2 and it reduces to 1/2. The slope of this line is 1/2. Now because it was reduced, we could actually use that smaller slope. We could actually look at more points on this line. So if I go back to the first point and I rise up 1 and I run 2 spaces, notice I'm still right on the line. I can rise up 1 and run 2 spaces, and now I'm at the second point. So next I'd like you to try calculating the slope using our rise over run formulas. One thing to note when you use the rise on a problem like this, if you go down, the rise is a negative number. If you go up, the rise is a positive number. For the run, if you go left, the run is a negative number, just like the x-axis. And if you go to the right, it's a positive value. So watch out for your positives and negatives. Find the slope. Let's start by calculating the rise. If we start at the point furthest on the left, -2, 4, my rise is actually if I go down to the level of the other point. My run is when I go over horizontally to the other point. What was the rise in this case? Well, the rise here would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. However, the direction shows me that since I'm going down, my rise is a negative value, because usually rise means go up. So we use a negative number to show that it was going down. Now, what's the run? Well, the run is the horizontal change, and I was going from left to right. So if I'm moving to the right, that's a positive value. So the run should be +2. So what is the slope in something like this? Using our slope formula and substituting in our values, the rise was -6, the run was +2. But we can simplify this. What is the slope when we simplify our fraction? Because these two numbers are divisible and it would divide out evenly, we can actually do that. We don't need to leave it in fraction form if it divides out evenly. So -6 divided by +2 is just -3. Now this does have the same meaning as -3 over 1 in terms of a slope with two numbers, so you can see the rise and the run. And to illustrate that on the graph, we can show that if I were to go, let's see, a rise of -3 means I would go down 3 spaces, and a run of +1 means I go to the right 1 space. I would get a point on the line. If I did that again, I rise -3 spaces, and I run +1 space, I get a point on the line as well.